He entered her life without warning, the way storms do, not loud at first but heavy in the air. She was a black woman who had learned to survive by becoming invisible, by keeping her head low and her heart guarded. Life had pressed hardship into her bones early, shaping her into someone quiet, observant, and careful. Poverty had taught her discipline, and loneliness had taught her restraint. Desire was a luxury she had long buried beneath responsibility and exhaustion. The Korean man noticed her the moment she crossed his path, though she did not notice him at first. Men like him were used to being seen, feared, obeyed. His presence altered rooms, bent attention, silenced noise. He carried power in his posture and danger in his calm. He had spent years mastering control over others, over situations, over himself. What unsettled him was not her beauty alone, though that was undeniable, but the way her existence seemed untouched by his authority. She moved through the world with quiet dignity, unaware of the shadow she cast over him. Their first moments near each other were accidental, or at least seemed so. Proximity came before intention. He stood too close without meaning to, then continued doing so because he wanted to feel the awareness ripple through her body. She sensed him before she saw him, the weight of his presence pressing against her back, tightening her breath. There was no touch, yet her skin reacted as if there had been. She told herself it was nothing, just another powerful man passing through a life that had no space for fantasy. But he did not pass through. He lingered. Each encounter sharpened something dangerous between them. He watched her carefully, not with hunger alone, but with curiosity, as though she were a puzzle he had no patience to solve yet could not walk away from. She felt his attention like heat on her skin, subtle but constant. It unsettled her, not because it was crude, but because it was controlled. His restraint made his desire louder than any reckless action could have. She tried to ignore it. She focused on survival, on routine, on the small certainties that kept her grounded. Yet her body betrayed her calm. When he was near, her senses sharpened. She became aware of her own breathing, the rhythm of her steps, the softness of her skin beneath worn clothes. She hated that awareness, hated how easily he pulled her out of the safety she had built around herself. For him, the struggle was different but just as consuming. He had taken control as easily as breathing for most of his life. People were assets or obstacles, rarely anything more. Desire was something he indulged or dismissed at will. But with her, desire slowed him down. It made him hesitate. He found himself measuring distance, timing, restraint. He did not touch her, not because he could not, but because he feared what would happen if he did. Control, once effortless, became fragile in her presence. The moment he leaned close enough for his breath to reach her skin changed everything. It was not an accident. He closed the distance deliberately, testing himself as much as her. The space between them vanished, replaced by tension so thick it felt physical. Her breath stopped, not from fear alone, but from the overwhelming awareness of him. The whisper that brushed near her ear carried no words she could repeat later, only intention, low and deliberate. It settled deep inside her, igniting something she had refused to acknowledge for years. She pulled away after, shaken by her own response. Shame and desire tangled inside her, leaving her restless and confused. She reminded herself of reality. The imbalance of power, the danger surrounding him, the cost of wanting what she should not. Yet at night, when exhaustion loosened her defenses, she replayed that closeness again and again. The memory of his breath, the way her body had responded without permission. He did not pursue her openly after that, but his restraint only deepened the pull. Silence became charged. Glances lingered longer. Every shared space felt smaller, heavier. He learned her habits without asking questions. Noticed the way she held herself when tired, the flicker of defiance that surfaced when she felt cornered. He admired her strength not as something to conquer, but as something that challenged him. As she learned more about him, the truth unsettled her. His influence ran deep, threaded through power, crime, and fear. He was not a man who belonged in her world, and she knew that staying near him carried risk. Yet she also saw fragments beneath the surface. discipline shaped by loss, control forged from chaos, loneliness masked by authority. These realizations did not excuse him, but they complicated her resolve. The tension between them grew darker, heavier. Desire mixed with danger, attraction sharpened by restraint. Every moment felt like standing at the edge of a line neither dared to cross. The absence of touch became its own form of intimacy, more consuming than physical closeness could have been. She felt claimed without being owned, wanted without being taken, and that unsettled her more than anything else. When danger finally reached her, it came not from him, but from the world he ruled. Threats moved quietly, shadows reacting to his attention. She realized then how vulnerable she had become simply by being seen by him. Fear pushed her toward escape, toward disappearing before the cost became unbearable. Yet when she saw what he was willing to do to protect her, how ruthlessly he moved, how decisively he eliminated threats, she understood the depth of his attachment. That it was not gentle nor pure, but it was real for him. The risk was unprecedented. Protecting her exposed weakness, and weakness invited challenge. Yet he did not retreat. Instead, he tightened his control around everything except his feelings for her. That singular loss of restraint frightened him more than any enemy ever had. He had built his life on dominance, but with her, dominance gave way to something more dangerous. Vulnerability. She faced a choice she never wanted. Walking away meant safety but emptiness, a return to a life untouched by intensity. Staying meant danger, desire, and the constant awareness that her heart was no longer fully her own. She weighed survival against longing, reason against instinct. In the end, there was no clean decision, only acceptance of the truth she could no longer deny. The story did not end with resolution. It ended with tension still alive, desire still burning, and danger still close. Their connection remained unfinished, unresolved, suspended between restraint and surrender. The whisper that had stolen her breath lingered in her memory, not as a promise fulfilled, but as a reminder of how easily control could be lost, and how deeply two lives could become entangled without a single touch.